So under unfinished business, the first item would be a report on the flexible learning year committee work and consideration of approval to pursue year-round school concept at the Lemon Wire Elementary School. And we have Mrs. Pope here, the principal of Lemon Wire, to sort of update us on that work and
what I'd like to do is real quickly give you an overview again. I know in early December we did have a board academy where we covered some of this information, but our flexible learning calendar committee, it initially started out as a year-round calendar committee, and Pam has been the chair of that committee, so you feel free to jump in at any time as well. But we were really studying year-round school, then in that process decided to look at the idea of a balanced calendar and having our school calendar shift to be spread out over more of the year in order to better meet student needs. It's better for learning. So what has happened is we have two groups kind of doing two different types of work. We have myself and some of our area superintendents that are working on a balanced calendar, a more flexible learning year, where the Mississippi Valley Conference would agree to a calendar, and we're going to be looking at pursuing that with our local legislators and asking them if we can reach consensus as a conference or Western Wisconsin schools, request a waiver or an administrative rule change in the law that would allow us to start school before September 1st. So we have that group working. Then the committee decided we do still believe that the research that's been done on year-round school shows that it can be very beneficial for students, and that it seemed appropriate that Lemon Wire Elementary might be a good place to see if we could establish year-round school at. So Mrs. Pope has broached that idea with her staff. They've visited some schools, and she's going to report on what they found. And what we're looking at is if you're, from having discussion on this, if you would be willing to give approval for Mrs. Pope to continue the discussion then with parents, with transportation, food service. We certainly don't want to have you vote on year-round school without having a sense of the potential costs that may include, and I know that's something that Mr. Gorder is concerned about as well. So we didn't want to move along any farther until you heard what the teachers have found out and then give us the okay to do additional research and work on that. So I'll turn it over to Mrs. Pope to talk about the work that she's done.
Sure. And I'm sorry, I thought I gave you a copy of the calendar to embed in there so they could have an idea, but I'll pass around a few copies.
Okay.
I went along with 3 of my classroom teachers and a MAPE teacher, a music teacher, decided to go with people that were interested and wanted more information. And we visited the Hamilton School in La Crosse and Longfellow, which is in Minnesota. And Hamilton is a K through 2 school. This is their first year doing the 45-15 calendar. And Longfellow, I believe, is in their 18th year. So very different perspectives from the two of them. The reception that we received was wonderful. They were very excited about 45-15. We heard from more than one teacher, we'll never go to a normal calendar. They loved it. Some of the positives that we saw when we were there, student achievement scores had increased, behavior management was less. They said that they didn't have to do as much reteaching in the beginning of their school year, that students were able to kind of hit the ground running. Their staff, again, was very excited. They had the opportunity to create advantages for students over the summer months that they don't typically have. They were able to bring in their garden, which Lemon Wire started our garden last year, so that was exciting for the staff to hear. Some opportunities in the summer months of visiting places or being able to bring some of those outdoor activities, whatever it may be, was more of a possibility with having the school year start in July. Some of their differences were their intersession times. So you have a 45-15 calendar, that'd be 45 days that you're going to school, and then 15 days of an intersession. Longfellow had the entire 15 days, they attended an intercession. Hamilton believed that all students needed to have a break at some point. So they had 10 days of intercession and 5 days where they were completely off. Some of the differences, again, Longfellow worked with a SAC, and my research has found that SAC it's a student-aged childcare or school-aged childcare, and what that is it's basically ran through the YMCA. And so Longfellow has partnered with their SAC program, and they provide all of their intercession study time, whereas Hamilton has partnered with the Boys and Girls Club, and their teachers provide that intercession time. That's kind of where we're at right now, is to figure out what that would look like for us, and how we would make that work. Some other things that we found on our visit, the suggestions were to get a calendar out right away. And before you can proceed, people need to be able to see what that looks like. What would a 45-15 school year look like? And the biggest discrepancies or the concerns that we've heard, because people are already questioning, is what is the differences going to be between my child that's at Lemonwire and my middle school or high school child. So one of the things that we looked at with the calendar was to make sure that any day that the middle school or high school or the other elementaries had off, Lemonwire was also off. So Martin Luther King Day, President's Day, Grand Fest, those days we are also off. So total, there were 9 days that we would be off, if you will, and the other elementary schools or the rest of the district would not. And those are highlighted in red. If you don't have a color copy, it's kind of hard to see, but there's...
I just did embed that, so
Okay.
if you refresh your computers, you should be able to.
There's 4 days in September and then 5 days in March. And this, again, is a draft copy of the calendar because we don't have the actual school calendar out for 2015-16. So it was kind of a guess of where our holidays would, well, we knew where the holidays were, but how the school would have those days off. Some of the other important breaks were to, part of the philosophy behind 45-15 is to make sure that you have whole weeks. So try to eliminate the 4-day weeks and try to make them as whole as possible. So that was something else that we took into consideration when we looked at the intercession times. One of their other suggestions from both schools were to answer questions at parent-teacher conferences, to be able to get as much information out as fast as possible so people knew that all of the details, and that was kind of our goal behind the calendar. I'm currently working with the Boys and Girls Club on a 21st Century grant to see if that's a possibility for those intercession times. That's going to be a huge piece of our puzzle. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Do you have any questions? Did I forget something? So in order to move forward, I guess, or to proceed, some of the things that Mrs. already mentioned were looking at transportation costs, the cost of food, the discrepancies of the 45-15. A lot of the transportation will depend on how many of our families, if they're interested. So if we have the majority of our families that continue to want to participate, that would make a huge difference as opposed to if a large population decided they wanted to go elsewhere. So some of it is kind of hard to get an actual dollar amount on until we know how our families are going to receive this. But my staff was very excited when we first rolled the idea out for them. They were, "Can we start next year?" So they were very excited.
I do think it's important to mention again that we're looking at this as being a choice school. So if there were parents who are in the Lemonwire boundary area who really did not want to have their children participate in 45-15, we would look at having them attend a different elementary school. But then parents of children who maybe are at Miller or LaGrange or one of our other elementary schools would have the ability to opt in to Lemonwire if they felt that that type of a calendar fit their needs best. So it's about providing options for our parents and what we really believe is a better learning environment for the students who are at Lemonwire.
Ideally, we'd like to keep them all, so
Yes.
that's why getting the information out early and their questions or concerns will help drive a lot of my investigation or figuring out a better calendar or trying to make it work for families as opposed to, here it is. So a lot of those early communication is going to be important.
But the families that are currently there have
First choice.
So that then they can opt out if they want to.
They really want to.
And again, to be clear, we're not approving the actual year-round school at this point. I mean, obviously, there's going to be lots of discussion. This is to approve your ability to pursue the concept and investigate all the things that you just talked about. And I'm sure we'll be having lots of discussions with lots of questions after this.
Absolutely. It's more, and so I can inform parents or let them know, and because that really is going to be a huge deciding factor of whether or not parents are interested. Or, I mean, if we only have 25% of our population, that's going to be a red flag to us that we need to do more groundwork. We need to solve more or answer more of their questions, I guess. So it's more of an okay to give an investigation and move forward.
Yeah. And as Mrs. already said, this follows up on at least a year of committee work looking into the advantages, disadvantages, and why it might be good for our district.
I'll make a motion to approve to pursue the year-round school concept at the Lemonwire Elementary School.
Okay.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve at least pursuing the year-round school concept at the Lemonwire Elementary School. Any questions or comments concerning that?
One
Yes.
question.
Yes.
When you're asking the parents, are they just the parents in the Lemonwire School District, or are you taking a census of all the parents in the whole district?
Right now, it was just the parents in the Lemonwire
Okay.
attendance area to get an idea of, or answer questions, I guess, for those students.
Okay.
And mostly because the school was targeted to look at it would most benefit the students that attend Lemonwire. So to see what kind of response we would get from our parents first.
Okay.
It's interesting, I fielded a call this afternoon from a local community member who was calling about this issue, with a concern about a year-round school at the secondary level, at the high school. And I did explain to the parent that what we were looking at was just at one elementary school, K-5 type of program. And this individual just commented that, he could support that. He believed that that's probably a good option for families that would want it at the elementary level, but he wasn't really excited about us considering moving that to the secondary level. And I just shared that that wasn't in our plans at this point in time.
Which is interesting because both Longfellow and Hamilton, that was their parents' biggest complaint back was, can't we do something at the middle school? Once they were on the calendar, they wanted it to be on. So, which is interesting. I think it's something that people need to get used to the idea, and year-round has a different tone to it, if you will, when people hear that. So really showing them the calendar of, no, there's 6 weeks off in the summer, you have the same end time, we just start a little bit sooner. So really explaining it to parents and showing them the calendar is going to be huge.
That's why you have to call it 45-15, right?
Yes.
Instead of the year-round, so you don't get that negative connotation.
But no matter what name we put on it, they still put year-round.
Yeah,
So
it's hard.
it is what it is, I guess.
It's hard to get away.
Nikki, with
Yeah.
this calendar, you said the 6 weeks off in the summer, would that coincide with like the summer pack program as well? Or?
Summer Pack would actually start earlier, and so they would be able to attend the first session of Summer Pack, and it would be a tentative middle of July time frame. So basically August would be the biggest difference for students, because if you look at the calendar, the intersession times are over our natural breaks for the school. So our winter break, our holiday in the spring, that break, or spring break, it's just extending the times around those. So it really isn't that big of a difference. And once families know that their child is able to attend school, that, you know, there may not be any difference if you choose to send them for the intercession time. They could be attending the entire block. So during those 2 weeks of intercession time, they would still be able to attend school and just be a different, you know, we would be focused on some remedial or enrichment, whatever it is that they needed to be focused on at that time.
And I think an important message is, again, even though it's year-round school, it's no more days.
Right.
It's the same amount of days, it's just distributed differently throughout the school year.
Unless they go to all the intercession. But that would be
Their
just
choice.
like if they went to summer school.
Yeah.
So there really isn't any difference there. All right, great. Any other questions? All right, perfect. Thank you.
Back to the motion. So we have the motion then to approve that pursuit to the year-round school concept. If there's nothing else, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it, that motion carries, and so that request to pursue the concept of year-round school at Lemon Wire is approved. Thank you.